Good evening, you're watching Kenya's third most preferred TV station. This is Switch TV News at 7. I am Lincoln Mbogwa. Our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. We have a lot prepared for you tonight, including what is going on in Kiambaa constituency and Muguga ward in Kiambaa County. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. Kiambaa constituents head to the polls in a by-election marred with violence. Murder trial against Siaya Governor Kothobado adjourned to 4th October 2021. 20-year-old Mastan Milimu Wanjala admits to murdering more than 10 minors before dumping their bodies in thickets, sewer lines, and sometimes even sucking their blood. Glad you're watching. Over 30 minutes of the broadcast begins now. Our reporter Daniel Karaoke has pitched camp in Kiambaa constituency, Kiambaa County, where the by-elections are still underway. Daniel, please paint for us a picture of what is happening now.
That's right, Lincoln. I find you loud and clear here in Kiambaa constituency at Karori High School, where the process of vote tallying is ongoing. Remember, the polls were opened at immediately 5 a.m. in the morning and were closed at immediately 5 p.m. in the evening. As I said, they opened at 6 a.m. in the morning. And according to the residing officer, all polling stations were able to open at appropriate timing. And unless for those which were able to delay and open a bit late, had to close a bit late to compensate for the time lost. However, we are here in Karori High School, where the process of tallying is ongoing. It is a bit noisy. We could have taken you inside there, but that is what is happening here right now. Lincoln.
Our election was mad with chaos. How is the situation now?
You know, Lincoln, I wouldn't say the by-election was marred with chaos. Remember, this is one by-election that was highly anticipated. It could be a small election, just a by-election, but it has quite significance, especially 13 months to the 2022 general elections. According to the IEBC and the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, who came here a bit late in the day, he said that the process was smooth. However, as reporters, we were only able to see one incident in Sianda, where Amos Kimunya was confronted by a group of angry youth who claimed of questions of who really was the Jubilee agent at that particular polling station. So apart from that, this process has been smooth, not only here in Kiambaa constituency, but we were also able to cover in Muguga ward, where there was a by-election for an MCA seat that fell vacant in March, a by-election that was also putting the UDA and Jubilee candidates on a head-to-head race again. And this is an election, like I said, is highly anticipated because it's putting the president and his deputy yet again at loggerheads. We saw this in Juja, Rorier, Bonchari previous elections, and again we are here in these elections in Kiambaa, and we're really expecting to see what really turns out. According to what we've been speaking with people, you can't really tell what the numbers are. It is quite a balance, but I mean, we'll be here all night to see what happens. Lincoln.
Daniel, at around 3 p.m., the voter turnout stood at around 20%. Did this increase towards the closure of the polling stations?
I wouldn't say that, Lincoln. That was what was hoped by the IEBC. In Muguga ward, however, the voter turnout was a bit better. However, they hoped that by closure time that closed, elections that closed about 2 hours ago, the voter turnout didn't really change. And we're here in Rori ward, where they're going to give us the official statistics and data. As we were there reporting to you in field until 3 p.m., the voter turnout was quite low, Lincoln, like you said. And we don't know what attributed to this low voter turnout. However, in Kiambaa constituency, to be specific, Lincoln, we were able to see at certain polling stations, like in some polling stations that we were able to visit, there was quite huge numbers of people who came, and at different polling stations, like I was with Namukana Samuel reporting at a different polling station, the number and the voter turnout was quite low, Lincoln. So we don't know, we came here to this polling station, to be specific, and the voter turnout hadn't changed at that last hour since that reading was made, that the voter turnout was at 20%. However, that 20% was in Kiambaa, but in Muguga ward, where there was that by-election for that MCA seat, at around 3 p.m., the voter turnout was at, let's say, 35%. Hoping to get official data from this tally that is currently underway here in this particular polling station where the tally is ongoing. Lincoln.
Daniel, you spoke earlier of, you have someone, a professional right there from the ILUG. What do you have to say about that?
Dasha Lincoln, I have one of the observers from ILUG who is also going to help us paint a better picture. They have been deployed at the 154 polling stations here in this race in Kiambaa constituency, and I'm with one, a chairman. He is going to give us a brief picture about how the process has been. Welcome to Switch TV. Kindly introduce yourself and paint us a picture of how it has been.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dan. I'm Joshua Changwany from the Elections Observation Group. And I would start from the positive side that we've been here from yesterday, and we are very impressed by the voters of Kiambaa compared with the recent by-elections in Bonchari and Juja constituencies. Number one, the people of Kiambaa have turned out in huge numbers since morning, and they have registered a huge turnout of voters, unlike the other previous by-elections that we've seen in our country.
Okay, allow me to cut you short. That was the vote turnout. But did you notice anything suspicious at any of the polling stations?
Yeah, there's some peculiarity and some very funny behaviors, especially by appearances of chiefs and assistant chiefs in polling stations. We've never seen that in other by-elections. And this is a warning to us as observers, because this might also manifest in the general elections in 2022. And the IEBC has stated very clearly that that was not allowed by the electoral laws that we have in our country.
Okay, apart from that, there's also this question about COVID-19. You're having these elections at quite a questioning time. I mean, what have you ever been able to observe? Did the IEBC conduct it in a proper way?
Yeah, we saw and we witnessed that IEBC was very prepared in terms of having even a clerk dedicated to see that measures on COVID-19 prevention was put in place, and they had a dedicated clerk who was called the COVID clerk. Would ensure that voters would sanitize, they would wash their hands, and there would also be some social distances in the queues, and ensure that voters were even educated at the polling station to keep the social distance and even have masks. And for us, we recommend the IEBC for that preparedness.
Thank you so much. I mean, 13 months to the general elections. Lincoln, allow me to ask this question. It is 13 months to the general elections. Is IEBC prepared to carry out this bulk election?
From their performance in these by-elections, if this is exactly what they are going to do in the next general elections, our country will do a better election than 2017 and in 2013. And I can confirm that.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Lincoln. That was one of the observers from ILUG giving to us, or rather painting to us, a brief picture of how their process has been. Like I said, I was not alone. We have been covering this process since March, since IEBC declared that these elections were to happen. Remember, campaigns closed just this Monday that had passed, and things stand. Like I wanted to say, in Kiambaa, it was almost turning red and yellow. It was Jubilee, UDA, especially here in Kiambaa constituency and Kabete constituency, where there is that by-election of the MCA seat in Muguga. However, I was with Namukana Samuel Lincoln, and he was able to prepare this short package. I believe it's ready. You can have a look.
Voting kicked off here in Kiambaa constituency and Muguga ward by election as early as 6 a.m. Security was heavier than usual as police were deployed ahead of the voting day to secure the election and avert any cases of violence. However, as expected earlier on, chaos erupted as National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya was whisked away by UDA party supporters.
To the fact that they have been buying votes all night, and they are not supposed to be here. We have communicated to the RO. Kimunya, in fact, in the better terms, Kimunya is a stranger in this police station. We should leave.
Kemunya's sole mission in this polling station is voters' bribery. You want to swear vote to the Jubilee's paper? No, you can't allow it. Kemunya must go.
Kariri Njama of Jubilee Party casted his vote at Gashie Primary School, sharing his hope of an easy win.
But so far, so good. We thank God. We have prayed. We did everything. And even for now, we're in prayer. And trusting God that this victory belongs to Kariri Njama. This victory belongs to the Jubilee Party.
UDA candidate John Juguna casted his at Tindibwa polling station at 11:20 a.m., alleging that there are plans of vote rigging by their Jubilee opponents.
He has not been given the badge as the badge by the IEBC. If he's an agent, he's supposed to be inside the polling center. So what is he doing outside the polling center? And he's saying that he's an agent for the IEBC. So it doesn't make sense. So if he's an agent, he's supposed to be inside. If he's not, the only people who are allowed to roam around, it's only the chief agent and the candidates. No one else. And that's why I'm alone. All the other members of parliament, because we have members of parliament who support us, they are not here.
Voter turnout, according to the IEBC chairman of Rachi Bukati, has however been low. Samuel Namkana, Switch TV, Kiambaa constituency.
As I told you earlier, our reporters Daniel Kariuki and Namukene Samuel have pitched camp in Kiambaa, and that is Kiambaa constituency and Mogoga ward, and they'll paint to us a picture of what is going on now. I understand tallying is still underway. Now, there was heavy police presence. Did this help secure the election in any way? Maybe Daniel Kariuki and Namukene Samuel can respond to this. We witnessed heavy police presence during the elections earlier on. Did these help in any way secure the elections, Namukene Samuel? Well, those were elections marred with chaos, you know, amidst a COVID-19 pandemic. But we hear the observers have said that, you know, the people observe social distancing, but the chaos were there. Did these help secure the election in any way? Daniel Kariuki, perhaps?
You covered, I remember, the Juja by-elections. I don't know what distinguishing factor have you been able to pick up from that?
Thank you so much. And by the way, this is the first time I'm doubling up as a reporter but as an analyst today. So, as you said earlier, I covered the Juja by-elections. Today, we covered the Kiambaa by-elections. Now, first of all, differentiate. First of all, I'll go in terms of the voter turnout. Now, in Kiambaa, we've had a 20% of, in terms
well,
of,
those are pictures from Marielon where the elections were taking place. It may seem peaceful inside the polling station, but outside, we understand the elections were marred with chaos. Now, we may get to understand maybe what prompted the clash between the Jubilee and UDA supporters in both Mogoga ward and Kiambaa constituency. Daniel Kariuki and Namukene Samuel will be telling us, maybe painting a picture of what prompted the clash between the UDA and Jubilee supporters.
I've only seen AP police officers. Ratio from one police officer in terms of the ratio, police officer to 1 to 2. Here in Kiambaa, I would say in Juja, in terms of COVID-19, how they were going
It's all smiles for Jubilee candidate Kariri Njama, who was just casting his vote with his supporters there. You can see that it's all smiles even from the voters from Kiambaa constituency. But as I told you earlier, it may seem peaceful inside the polling station, but outside it was just heavy police presence and a lot of clashes between the UDA and Jubilee supporters. You saw pictures from our lawn during the by-election.
General elections.
I would say, first of all, to the IEBC, this was their task, this was their role. By the way, they were supposed to have people who were there, specifically clerks who were there to observe or to make the voters observe the COVID-19 restrictions.
Thank you so much, Namkana.
By the way, before I let you go, you have covered the Muguga by-election. What transpired in Muguga?
Well, in Muguga, it was not quite different, but what
Well, that was earlier today in Kiambaa and Kiambaa constituency and Muguga ward, where the by-elections were taking place, and it seemed so peaceful inside the polling stations, but outside it was chaos, heavy police presence, and you know, as the observers said, there was a lot of peculiarity. And we'll be taking now a short commercial break. We'll be coming back with Daniel Karaoke and Samuel Lamukanda, who have pitched camp in those two places. Welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. Now, vote counting is underway in the Kiambaa by-election and the contest has narrowed down, pitting Jubilee's Karirin Jama and UDA's John Jagona. Daniel Kariuki and Namukene Samuel, our reporters, have pitched camp in Kiambaa County. Daniel Kariuki, there was a heavy police presence. Did this help secure the election in any way?
That's right, Lincoln. Indeed, there was extreme police presence, especially here where the tallying process that has just kicked off. You know what I'd say, in at least 30 minutes ago, the process has kicked off indeed. But there is still very heavy presence of police officers. We've seen trucks and trucks of police and law enforcers coming in to ensure that this process goes on smoothly and the winner is announced soon. I'm not alone, of course, Lincoln. I'm with Namukana Samuel, who has been covering this story together with me. I've been in Muguga, he's been in Kiambaa. We've met to give you a detailed report on what has been happening here in Kiambaa County. And I'll bring him immediately. Namukana, thank you so much for creating time. I mean, you've been covering this as well, but I also remember you covered one in Juja. I mean, what was the difference and what stood out in this particular election?
Thank you so much, Daniel Kariuki. By the way, this is the first time I'm doubling up as a reporter, but as a political analyst. Now, back to your question, Daniel Kariuki. In Juja constituency, basically I'll start with the number of voters who turned out today to vote. Now, in Kiambaa, we had a 20% voter turnout. Now, in Juja, it was 18%. Now, here in Kiambaa, we had 94,000 registered voters. Now, if you say 20% of 94,000 voters is around 19,000, in Kiambaa it was 17,000. Now, this is, sorry, in Juja it was 17,000. This is like 2,000 more, actually the number of registered voters. It's a bit, of course, Kiambaa is 2,000 more than that, that in Juja, of course. Now, today also something else happened. I noticed something here in Kiambaa. Yeah. Now, in terms of police deployment, in Juja, we had the General Service Unit. Here in Kiambaa, I've noticed the AP officers and the number of, I'd say, the ratio of police officers to the common man here in Kiambaa is around 1 to 10. In Juja, I will tell you, it was around 1 to 2. That is 1 police officer to 2 common man, just certifying that we had more police officers in Juja compared to what we have seen today here in Kiambaa.
And maybe allow me to ask you this question, still on matter of security. Do you think that heavy deployment of law enforcers has attributed to this smooth process that we've seen here?
Of course, we've had the United Democratic Alliance Party complaining that the heavy deployment of police officers has barred their voters from coming to vote. It was more of a form of intimidation. It is from them. I've just seen a report that has come in. But to be sincere, I think today we haven't had much apart from what happened in the morning, the scuffle between Amos Kimunya and the Kipipiri Member of Parliament, and also he was up as the majority Member of Parliament, the majority leader in Parliament, of course. Now, I think today the scuffles were a bit less because that was the only case we had today. But nothing, I think from the IEBC, they've said everything has gone on smoothly.
And allow me to bring this to book, Namukana. There was always this aspect of having super agents, and we'd normally see a number of legislatures flocking from different sides, either UDA, either Jubilee coming here to support. But however, remember the returning officer yesterday said that there wouldn't be super agents. Do you think that particular move has resulted? Because I mean, we are here together. We've seen only a handful of legislators. Do you think that has attributed to the smooth process?
Now let me take you back to Matungu, to Bonchari, and in Juja, also in Nakuru. We had a class of politicians who were classifying themselves as super agents. Now, yesterday, Mr. Peter Mugai, who is the presiding officer here in Kiambaa, said in the Elections Act, there is nothing as a super agent. We only have agents. So today we saw it was a handful of politicians who were around, and I think that contributed to a much peace here in Kiambaa.
All right, Namukana, quote unquote, there's all this aspect of COVID-19. More than a year now in Kenya, but we're still having these elections. General elections are coming close. Do you think today in this Kiambaa election specifically that you have been covering, that the COVID-19 protocols was followed, and did IBC step up and follow this Ministry of Health guidelines?
I would say it was partly because now the IEBC majorly focused on providing hand sanitizers, providing cans for washing hands. But basically, in terms more so, we saw in Gashie, we went to Gashie, we saw people were crowded in lines because, by the way, in Gashie, the voter turnout was high compared to other places. And to be sincere, social distancing was a thing of the past. Before I let you go, Kariuki, you were in Muguga. What transpired in Muguga?
Well, not much difference from Kiambaa, but I mean, one distinguishing factor from that small by-election in Muguga ward, where it was that race for that MCA position after the late Eliud succumbed in March this year. That's why they were out there looking for that new MCA. There was still that race between UDA and Jubilee. Yet again, they're going head to head. The entire place was colored and painted in yellow and red, of course. But the process was smooth, unlike in Kiambaa, where there was that scuffle between the National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya and a group of youth over that question about who really is the Jubilee agent at that particular place. But in Muguga, I'd like to report that in the 27 polling stations, as what I've been able to gather, it was quite a peaceful and quite smooth process. And also COVID-19 protocols were observed on matters voter turnout. According to the returning officer, at around 3 p.m. in the evening, he gave that fresh statement and he said that the voter turnout by then was at 30%, hoping that by closure of voting, the number would actually increase to maybe 50%, being hopeful that the number would rise. But that was the voter turnout here in Muguga.
Thank you so much. We'll continue covering this by-election by and large from now till 7 a.m. when the constituency here in Kiambaa will have their new representative in the August House. Back to you in studio, Lincoln.
Thank you, Daniel Kariuki and Namukene Samuel, our reporters of pitch camp in Kiambaa counties, covering by-elections amid a pandemic marred with chaos, propaganda, low voter turnout and heavy police presence. We'll be giving you the results as they trickle in. Now, moving on, as UDA and Jubilee battle it out in Kiambaa by-elections, Deputy President William Ruto has today hosted a section of leaders from Lari constituency, Kiambaa County, laying out strategies ahead of the 2022 general elections. Speaking at the meeting in his current home, Ruto bashed ODM leader Raila Odinga, saying Kenyans have boycotted the BBI reggae and it is time to bring on board politics that benefit the common mwananchi.
Mimi nafurahi ya kwamba wamesalimu amri, wamekubali. Sasa wale watu walikuwa wanatusumbua ati tubadilishe katiba, tutafute vile ya kugawana mamlaka, sijui tutafute positions, sijui tugawane hii na ile. Leo wamekubali. Hata mtu ya kitendawili na wale wengine wamekubali. Wakenya wamekataa mambo ya kubadilisha katiba. Wakenya wanataka tuzungumzie mambo ya uchumi. Vile wananchi watapata kazi, watafanya biashara, kila mtu aweke pesa kwa mfuko. Hiyo sasa ndio mjadala itakuwa Kenya hii.
And still on matters politics, ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has said the once vibrant NASA coalition has since deteriorated ever since the past general elections and that reviving it is similar to flogging a dead horse. The NASA coalition partners have in the recent past traded blame games over who is responsible for the sinking relationship as a countdown to next year's general election starts to pick up pace.
Tangu uchaguzi uliokwisha mpaka sasa, ukweli wa mambo ni kwamba NASA imedidimia kabisa. Na kuna mambo kadhaa ambayo tumejaribu kufanya kupitia kwa njia zingine kulingana na mkataba ambao kwa wakati huu ni mkataba ambao umesajiliwa kule kwa Registrar of Political Parties.
Former chairperson of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, Kiambaa, has called out Jubilee and ODM to stop interfering with the independence of the IEBC before Kenya burns in flames. She spoke this before the 7-member selecting panel in search for commissioners who will replace Consolata Nkatha, Margaret Mwachanya, Paul Kurgat and Rosalina Kombe. Caroline Sume with his story.
Kiambaa, former chairperson, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, says in case she gets to replace one of the 4 commissioners who resigned, she will be willing to push back so as to protect the independence of the electoral body, IEBC.
There's a lot of external pressure from people who are so powerful at IEBC. How are you going to handle that?
I think there must be people in this country who must be willing to push back without fear and without favor. Otherwise, we will be engulfed in flames. whether it is ODM, whether it is Jubilee, whether it is the smallest party, they must toe the line. Otherwise, we are done in this country. And every cycle of election shall be the same. We must push back. I am one of those people who is willing to push back.
The use of technology during election was a topic that took center stage. However, both Justice Nyaganya and Justice Munyithwa, candidates who are also interviewed today, are against the technology way of voting, claiming that it will leave out the elderly.
The manual system, why do I say so? My experience showed there are places where somebody cannot be identified using the biometric system. Why? Somebody has been a machine cutter. Thumbs cannot pick it. How do you do it? You go back to alphanumerical, check the register, certify this person there, allow them to.
A total of 666 people had applied for the commissioner position, but only 36 were shortlisted. After the interviews are over on 22nd July, the panel will forward the recommended names to the president for appointment. Caroline Tuma, Switch TV.
Thank you, Caroline Sim. Meanwhile, the police have been granted 30 days by the Makadara court to pave way for more conclusive investigations following the bone-chilling confession by 20-year-old suspect Mastan Melimu Wanjala, who admitted to murdering more than 10 minors before dumping their bodies in thickets, sewer lines and sometimes even sucking their blood. He will be detained at Buruburu Police Station as a homicide unit of Directorate of Criminal Investigations takes over the case and tracks down the forensic trail left by the suspect. As today marks the end of the hearing of Sharon Otieno's murder case, the case has been adjourned to October 2021 between 4th and 7th. This is after the last witness, Police Constable Willie Okot, narrated how he recorded the statement on that fateful day, as Mariam Jahid reports.
Earlier today, Police Constable Willie Okoti, who was the officer on duty at the Mawego Police Station the day Sharon was murdered, narrated to court how he recorded the statement.
This reportee further told me that while in the vehicle, he was threatened that he will be killed. The reason being that he was investigating allegations that the Migori governor had impregnated Sharon Otieno. Now, fearing for his life, he jumped out of a moving motor vehicle between Homa Bay and Kendu Bay and escaped.
The key accused of the Sharon murder case are Migori Governor Okoth Obado, Michael Ayuma and former Migori clerk Caspar Obier. The defense legal team is led by Mr. Kioko Kilokumi, Professor Tom Ojienda and Elisha Ongoya. Hearing of this case has been on for the last 4 days, and so far over 5 key state witnesses have testified in Milimani Court before the trial judge Cecilia Githua. It's 3 years since Rongo University student Sharon Beryl Otieno was murdered and her body dumped in Kodero Forest. The case has been adjourned to between 4th to 7th October 2021. Mariam Jahid, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mariam Jahid. Elsewhere, 25,000 troops are said to be deployed in South Africa to help quell the riots following 6 days of looting and destruction of businesses. More than 1,700 people have been arrested, with reports of at least 72 dead, with growing concerns over the safety of Kenyans in South Africa. Our reporter Harry Chimere spoke to Secretary General of the Kenya Diaspora Association on the situation in South Africa and files the following report.
Defense Minister Novice Mapisa Ngakula has announced that troops in the provinces of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng will be boosted to 25,000 from about 5,000 now, following the 6th day of rioting and looting. The protest that erupted on July 10th, following the jailing of former President Jacob Zuma, has led to more than 200 malls vandalized, over 800 stores looted, and 100 completely burnt, with at least 72 deaths reported so far. With the worst case of violence since apartheid ended in 1994, eyebrows have been raised on whether Kenyans living in South Africa are safe.
What has happened is that they have started doing business in the malls, and those are the malls which have now been affected. So it is quite bad for them. They have really been put out of business. The army have taken over, and cleaning has started taking place, and a little bit of normalcy seems to be in the cards, but we don't know when exactly normalcy will resume.
The Kenyan Government and Diaspora Association has assured that none of its nationals living in South Africa has been harmed, and in case of the riots worsening, then evacuation action will be taken. Amid fears of food and fuel shortages, the Secretary General of the Kenya Diaspora Association, Isaac Githinji, says that the looting will have ripple effects in the months to come. Police have warned that anyone using social media to encourage the violence will be arrested and prosecuted, with experts urging that the happenings of South Africa paint a clear picture of the deep-seated historical issues which, if not addressed, will worsen the situation. Reporting for Switch TV, my name is Harriet Chimea.
Thank you, Harriet Chimea. Now back home. Technical and vocational education and training TVET trainees are set to compete at the world level as Kenya joins the World Skills Competition, a platform completion for global skill competition. In addition, the government is set to certify Kenyans with only informal skills and with no education in a spirited campaign to tap and embrace skills in the informal sector. Our business reporter Brian Mwenda narrates.
TVET is the future of skills and works.
Kenyans with technical abilities but with no formal education are set to get certification from the government as it seeks to embrace more skill from the informal sector.
So the word of mouth is the strongest acclamation of somebody's skills, better than paperwork.
The TVET chair adds that universities can learn from the TVET's hands-on way of learning, as most universities predominantly only provide theory while compromising on the practical know-how.
When somebody wants to build your house, and a lot of those people out there don't have certificates, you don't ask them for a certificate. You ask them, which house have you built?
However, students have campaigned for a change of mentality by employers who judge TVET trainees on the basis of their academic qualification.
We have another mindset that we only have the technical skills, we don't have the theoretical skills.
Now, the message from TVET today is that TVETs are not here to provide solutions for those who failed in the examination. TVETs are here to provide solutions both in education and skill. Brian Mwenda, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Brian Mwenda. It's a wrap for this bulletin. But before we leave, Frederick Muitiriri is here. And you know, up next is Tipping Point. Fred, Kiambaa by-elections, Muguga by-elections.
Yeah.
Pitting Jubilee and UDA.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
It's going down. It's going down. You know, I think the biggest issue right now is the fact that both Jubilee and UDA are claiming victory. So I don't know how IEBC is going to play with that, and especially going into next year's general elections. So we'll be discussing that and what is the scenario? How are they going to tackle what is happening online? You know, everyone is claiming this one is claiming. How are we going to know who is legit? It will be so difficult. Of course, we are going to discuss about the death of NASA. So stay still in a short moment, few minutes from now.
The death of NASA, Kiambaa, Muguga by-elections, a lot in line for you. Up next on Tipping Point with Frederick Muitiriri. For us, it's a wrap. I am Lincoln Ombogo. Our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. My producer has been Safi Godana. Good evening.